Hello friends, I am Rajesh Chandrasekhar. In this video, I'll be introducing a simple and user-friendly application for Agile project management and tracking, that is Sprintometer. Let's move on. During the rest of the video, I'll be briefly running through the below points. What is Scrum? Why do we need a tool to manage the Scrum projects? Summarize the tool with a sample project. I'll be discussing about pros and cons of the tool as per my understanding. Also, I'll be talking about a couple of unique features of the tool and how it relates to the Scrum process. Let's get started. What is Scrum? Scrum is a simple framework for product development which occurs in small pieces, with each piece building upon previously created pieces, getting the constant feedback to build exactly and only what is needed. Here is the picture which explains the flow of the Scrum process. As all of us know about the Scrum process, I will not be talking about each phase of the Scrum process. Now that we know what is Scrum, the next question is, why do we need a tool to manage the Scrum projects? Before I started reading more on Scrum process, I was wondering that when we have a very small team which is mostly non-distributed, what is the use of using a Scrum tool? Instead, we can go for whiteboards and stickies. After spending substantial amount of time looking for the reason, I found the answer that spend your time developing software, not managing Scrum, thereby delivering value to the business. Sounds logical and convincing. Okay, now let's move on to the next part of the video. Now we have seen what is Scrum, why do we need a tool to manage the Scrum projects. In the next part of the video, I'll be summarizing the tool with an example. Let's move on. Sprintometer is a free software which can be downloaded from sprintometer.com. Visit the website, click on the download button, and you will get the Sprintometer downloaded to your machine. Since I already have the Sprintometer on my machine, I'm going to use the one which I have on my machine. When you launch the Sprintometer software, this is the initial screen which you are going to see. Without wasting much time, let me go ahead and start creating the new project. Click on new. Here I will be selecting Agile project type as Scrum. Now it is prompting me to enter the project name. Just to keep it realistic, I will be selecting a project name which is very familiar to us. So I'm selecting the project name as Panther. It will be easier for us to understand. And the estimation units as ideal hours. Now we have the project ready. The next step is to go ahead and add the sprint. I'm naming the sprint as sprint 1. Okay, I have named the sprint as sprint 1, and the next thing which I have to do is to select the sprint duration. For this particular demonstration, I am selecting sprint duration as 2 weeks. Let me say the first day of the sprint is going to be 8th of December and the last day of the sprint is going to be 19th of December. This tool also provides us to exclude weekends from the sprint schedule. Okay, once we select the sprint schedule, the next step is to select the last reported date. The last reported date should be the day before to the first day of the sprint. Nothing but if 8th of December is the first day of the sprint, my last reported date should be 7th. Say apply, and now we have the project defined and the sprint defined. Since we are ready with the project, we have to go ahead and add few resources to the project. Let me do that. Okay, the first resource which I'm adding is John. This tool also provides as an option of hourly rate of the resource. This helps us to manage the expenses of the resource as well as the project. So let's say John charges $30 per hour, and since he's a coder, I'm retaining this. Let me go ahead and add few more resources. William is coder too, and let's say he charges $25. Assuming that my Scrum team also has the testers, I would be adding a resource of type tester. I'm selecting as testing, hourly rate 30, say OK. Now we have successfully defined or allocated all the resources to the project. At this stage we have project defined, we have sprint defined, and we have resources allocated. At this stage we should be waiting for the user story from the product owner. Suppose if the product owner comes up with the first user story, we should be adding the user story under the sprint. At this stage, let's say product owner comes up with his first user story. I'm naming the first user story as login screen. Since we considered PantherSoft as a web application, I'm considering the first user story as login screen. Okay, now we have the user story defined. We have a product backlog item. At this stage, the Scrum team has to sit together and they have to divide the user story into various tasks. Let's say Scrum team got a chance to sit together and to look into the user story, and they have divided user story into many tasks. The first task is, let's say the Scrum team called the first task as creation of database tables. And let's say the initial estimation of this particular task as 15 ideal hours, and since this is part of the coding, I am retaining this. Let me go ahead and add few more tasks. Again I'm selecting it as 15, and even since this is also part of coding, I am retaining it. Integration of front and back end. Assuming that my Scrum team has a tester or the testers, I would be creating a task for the testers. Since this is of type testing, I would be choosing this as testing and initial estimation as 15 hours. Okay, now I have the a user story divided into various tasks. The next immediate thing is we have to start the sprint. Let me go ahead and do that. In this tool, when I say next reported date for the first time, it means that sprint has been initiated. Now we all know Scrum relies on self-commitment and self-organizing teams. It is the responsibility of the team members to proactively come forward and sign up for the task. Let us say, for the first task, Alice picks the task. And similarly, the rest of the tasks are picked up by the other team members. As testing of login screen is a testing activity, Bob, being a tester, picks the task. Now let us assume that we have completed the day 1 of the sprint. At the end of the day, the team member should enter the efforts in the tool so that the progress of the sprint can be tracked. For the first task, Alice comes and updates as 3 ideal hours of work has been completed. Similarly, the rest of the team members update the efforts respectively. Once the efforts are updated, we can track the progress clicking on the scope chart, where we can see the 2-dimensional graph of each work type. From the graph, we can say that if team members work with the same pace, coding can be completed on December 15th and testing on December 17th. We can also view the 3-dimensional burndown chart, where we can simultaneously see burndown of all work types. So on one chart, we can see the whole project status. Now we have seen the demonstration of the tool with a sample project and how the progress of the sprint can be tracked. Moving further, I will be talking about pros and cons of the tool as per my understanding. Pros: tree structure, time reporting, summary and story readiness report, separate tracking of development and testing tasks. Most of all, it's free. Tree structure. Tree hierarchy represents the typical agile project structure, that is, project, sprint, user story, task, which is very easy to understand the structure and execution of the sprints and projects. Time reporting. Since Scrum relies on self-commitment, each member will pick a task and will update the efforts at the end of the day. Summary and story readiness report. Summary and story readiness report gives the overview of the project, and it also allows us to export to Microsoft Excel for all charts and spreadsheets. Here we can see that 13% of total testing work has been completed on day 1 and 17% of total coding work has been completed on day 1, and also the total implementation says 16%. If we go at the same pace, we can see that we would be ending the sprint activities 3 days in advance. Now we shall see some of the cons. I would like to term it as improvement area rather than the cons. As per my understanding, there are few improvement areas that are to be considered. There is no product backlog or sprint backlog management. The tool mainly concentrates on the sprint process rather than the pre and post sprint activities. No daily Scrum dashboard. No support for product owner's feedback or approval part. It is not a web application. Though it provides an option to save the file on the public Sprintometer server, it is not flexible as the web applications. Now we have seen the pros and cons of the tool. Moving further, I'll be discussing unique features and how it relates to the Scrum process. The first one is resources and budgets. Here we can provide information about human resources and calculate budget of my sprint. For example, if John goes on vacation, I'll set the empty values for those days. Now we can see that there is an updation in the total sum budget of the sprint. Daily budget row gives the information that what is the budget for each day of the sprint. Similarly, sum budget row gives us the information that what is the budget for the whole sprint. This feature comes into handy when we have variable resources and to manage the budget inside the Sprintometer, so that product owner can be informed about the sprint budget at all times. The second feature being measurable productivity. We can always monitor the progress by burn-down charts, and the whole team can be updated with the progress. By this, I would like to complete the demonstration and evaluation of the tool Sprintometer. Thank you.